I welcome you on behalf of the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University for a video lecture presentation. Today we have for presentation the topic performance appraisal and competency mapping system. This lecture forms part of the human resource management course of BA 5th semester. Performance appraisal and competency mapping system relate to the assessment of employees performance. The performance, there is a saying in English, Shakespeare said, a life that is not examined is not worth living. This talks about the importance of assessment or examination of something to continue that activity. So, employees are paid huge salaries and other benefits to serve the people. If they are really serving in a proper way or not is a very important subject, and therefore, this lecture covers that particular subject, and hence it is very important. In this lecture, we talk about the importance of performance appraisal, competency mapping, the concepts, what exactly these two concepts mean, and what are some of the processes involved in doing these two jobs, namely performance appraisal or competency mapping, and what are the problems in ensuring effective performance appraisal or efficient competency appraisal, and what suggestions can be made. This is the sequence of the lecture in which we proceed. Now, first let us have an understanding of what do we mean by performance. We all understand in a very superficial way what performance is. Performance is something that is what we do in discharge of our duties. We have some fair idea, but there are coming to some technical elaboration of what performance is. There is a writer called Spangenberg. He gives an equation. He says performance, which is abbreviated as PF, is equal to A. A means the ability of the employee multiplied by the motivation, signified as mentioned as M, and plus or minus OS means organizational support. Let me just put it, paraphrase it again. PF is equal to, in a equation form, PF is equal to A multiplied by M plus or minus OS, wherein once again I repeat, performance is equivalent to an employee's ability which is multiplied by his motivation. And then not only motivation is important, organizational support is also important. If there is a favorable organizational support, an employee's performance enhances. If there is a unfavorable organizational support, employee performance declines. So, therefore, we have thus come to understand what exactly performance is there. Performance means it is dependent on three things: abilities of the employees, motivational levels of the employees, and organizational support. I think human resource management is basically about all such things, but coming to performance appraisal, this is a very critical equation you should all remember. We come to the meaning of performance appraisal. Performance appraisal is known with several other names also. It is known as annual review in some organizations, because the review of employees' job performance is done annually every year. Sometimes simply it is known as performance review evaluation. It is in some organizations known as employee appraisal, and more than all these things, there is a latest concept known as performance management. Actually, performance management is a step higher than performance appraisal. Performance appraisal comprises of the task of assessing how worthy the individual is to the organization, whether the employee, be it whatever be the category, is he really contributing things to the organization, is he contributing in the measure that is expected of him. So, that is performance appraisal. So, performance appraisal helps us to decide whether the person is duly performing or unduly performing, performing to the level expected or more or less. This is one, but the modern thinking is that this is not much important. Though it is important, it is not sufficient. What is needed is performance has to be improved. So, therefore, the modern stress is on performance management. To put it in a kind of formula, performance management is equal to performance appraisal plus performance improvement. So, now there is a stress on concurrent improvement of performance, and there has been criticism about the old fashioned ways of performance appraisal that is done in government. The cycle time in government has been 1 year. So, at the end of 1 year there is a performance appraisal that is very important for promotion or releasing annual grade increments and all that. But the question that is being raised is that, you see, is that really worth? After 1 year the fellow has wasted time or anything, you have advised him, and that is not proving very useful. So, performance management is something which is a concurrent appraisal plus improvement. So, whenever there is a shortfall, I think it should go on together. So, assess, immediately give the feedback to the employee. So, performance management is performance appraisal plus performance feedback, which leads to performance improvement. Okay, this is what is known as performance appraisal. I have just tried to mention what are the alternative phrases that are used: annual review, performance evaluation, employee appraisal, performance management. Now, coming to what exactly goes into performance appraisal, it is a regular review of an employee's job. Here, regular review means it is to be done at regular intervals. You choose 1 year every year, 1 month every month, daily. Some critical operations, maybe some satellite operations or defense related deployment of the soldiers and all that, you have to review. So, the regular review means it is not once in a while you forget about it and do it. So, there should be some regularity. It is a regular review of employee's job performance. It is not about his personal. We are not assessing him as a father or a mother or a sister or brother, husband or wife. This is not our consideration. Our consideration is focused on job. Yes, it may be that job is dependent on these factors, but the prime focus is on this. And one more aspect of performance appraisal is overall contribution of an individual to the organization. Basically, performance appraisal is assessing the worth of the individual to the organization. Is he highly worthy? Is he of not any consequence? There are some people, even if you can remove the fellow, nothing will happen. Organization will be sometimes even better. The fellow is not only not performing. There are in government organizations here and there you have such people who bunk their duties. They are here, there in places where they are not supposed to be. So, that is to be judged by performance appraisal. So, it is performance appraisal is also to be little more concrete. It is assessment of the employee's skills, employee's achievements, employee's growth, or presence or absence of these things. So, skills are there or not there, achievement is there or not there, is growing. Growth means is he the same fellow? 10 years back, I think it often happens in there is a joke about teachers, the history repeats, something like that. The fellow will use the same jokes, same narrations, same sequence and all that. That is not an indication of growth. An employee should be always fresh, and what you see him last year, if you see him this year, he should be whole lot different for better. So, this is the objective of performance appraisal, a regular review of overall contribution based on skills, achievements and growth. So, this is, and it is done in two ways. Performance appraisal is normally done by an immediate manager of the employee, immediate boss of the employee, and or it is known as line manager. So, the word line manager is used. some officers are working, some employees are working as staff assistants. So, they are there to help somebody and there may be some other staff person just above him, but he is not the person who will do. This staff employee is working for a line manager and that fellow should do it. We come to the methods of performance appraisal. There are two types of methods which are used for appraising the performance of employees, old methods and new methods. The old methods are known as traditional methods, the new methods are known as modern methods. One important difference between old and new is not only the time, but also the aspects on which the methods are emphasizing. The older methods emphasized on the personal traits, qualities of the individual. You see, how is his personality? Is he good looking? Is he smart in speaking? Is he an attentive? So, these are all qualities. So, on the basis of this, performance appraisal was done. So, if you are intelligent, your performance is good. Your memory is very high, sharp, your performance is good. But the question is whether they are using this intelligence, this memory in pursuit of the job or not is the real question. So, the modern methods focus on the evaluation of the work. After all, you may be intelligent, you are good looking, you are physically strong, you are coming on time, you are on the dot, but your performance is such that morning to evening you sit, you do not do anything, you do not contribute. Even if you contribute, you are spoiling things. Therefore, the modern methods are shifting from input to output. The older methods are those. So, I think this is also somewhat related. The older methods emphasized heavily on intelligence quotient, intelligence of the employee. The old testing methods, old assessment methods of employee selection were also based on how intelligent the person is. But nowadays, it is found that more than intelligence, emotional intelligence is needed. The fellow should have understanding of the personality, the moods of the bosses, moods of the subordinates, situation, the problems of the citizens, empathy. When a person comes for a job, he need not be very intelligent, but he should be that much intelligent as to understand the problem of the citizen, a person who is coming for some work. So, therefore, the modern methods are more sensible than the older methods. So, there is a distinction like this. And now, we come to some of the important methods of performance appraisal. The first is assessment center. Assessment center is not a particular place as such, although the name looks like it is indicative of a place. Assessment center is a use of multi-rater appraisal and multiple methods of appraisal. Say for example, how well the employee is performing, you have 5 methods. So, you use all 5 methods, and how well the employee is performing, this assessment can be done by boss, can be done by subordinate, can be done by colleague, can be done by consumer. So, if everybody who deal with you is assessing you, every method is used, that is what is known as assessment center. So, the results will be pakka and the real performance will come. There is another method known as behaviorally anchored review methods and human resource accounting method, psychological appraisal method, MBO. MBO is management by objectives. What it says is performance appraisal should be done on the basis of jointly set objectives. This is a modern method, it is being advocated. Earlier, the bosses used to decide what a subordinate has to do, but now it is rejected as an old fashioned way. What an employee has to do should be decided both by the boss and the subordinate. If a subordinate is not involved in the decision as to what performance he has to give, the employee may not agree to that. So, therefore, the Peter Drucker has advocated this management by objectives is the best method of ensuring higher performance from employees, because when the objectives are set together by boss and subordinate, they become friendly. The gap between the boss and subordinates will be gone. The boss understands subordinate, the subordinate respects the boss. This is the method. The another important method that is used is 360-degree appraisal. It is also known as multi-rater appraisal, about which I mentioned. 720-degree method is also used. So, these are all the methods of performance appraisal. What are the advantages of this performance appraisal? You see, the fellows have to do the job. Why do you bother them? Making them sit somewhere, measure how they are doing and all that. Is it not waste of time? Some people ask. But there are many tangible benefits of performance appraisal. We will see some of them. Number one, feedback. You see, I am giving a lecture and my friends, technical friends here, tell me that sir, you better sit in this posture, look straight at the camera. So, this is the feedback I am getting. If I do not get the feedback, I will be sitting my own sweet way and I may not be doing a good performance. So, this is an immediate feedback that is coming and my performance is also improving. Thus, in performance appraisal, feedback is a very important thing and it leads to higher productivity, and performance appraisal leads to greater communication and greater focus on employees work, and goal setting, desired performance, performance reinforcement, all such things, all good things can happen from what is known as performance appraisal. Performance appraisal also has its own limitations. Some people say that performance appraisal is not really giving all the benefits that we generally imagine. There are so many problems. One such problem is some employees believe that performance appraisal is a very nightmarish experience. When I ask some of my students or friends working in HR departments, they say that performance review is the worst time for them. You see, they have to assess the person. Every day they are dealing with them, but they have to confidentially write how is this person's performance. So, you feel it pinches you. You see, he is very friendly, he is respecting you so much, but you have to give. Such problems are there. And another important thing is performance appraisal period is a period where the distance between the appraiser and the appraisee grows. The fellow will be suspiciously looking at the boss, whether this fellow will help me or harm me. So, that cordiality in the organization is gone, and sometimes the results of performance appraisal are challenged in courts. Sometimes the bosses do it arbitrarily. That is the reason why there are some objective standards. If you follow them, it is all right. Otherwise, somebody can go to court of law. You can challenge your judgment, and sometimes misuse of performance appraisal is also there. Sometimes there are bosses who will threaten the subordinates. You fellow, I will see your, I have a time when I can take it on you. You may think that I have nothing in my hand. So, I will spoil your confidential report. I will see to it that you do not get your promotion. Such things also happen, and these are problems that come up in this process. Yeah, some problems of performance appraisal are also still there, some more problems. If an organization is following total quality management system TQM, there is no need for performance evaluation. There are subjectivity considerations also. Now, all bosses, all employees are not honest in that sense, one has to be. Now, you are guided by your caste considerations, regional considerations, community our fellow you add a mark more, he is from some other caste you reduce a mark. These things, we are all human beings and such things also enter the appraisal process. Therefore, appraisal process has to be very tight and very highly structured, so that such things will not happen. And one more important thing is central tendency error. There are people, I think this experience often we see as teachers when we are valuing some teachers who are in a hurry, tearing hurry, they do not want to concentrate and all that. They tell us, "Arey bhai, what is there?" You give golden mean. You do not give too many marks nor too small number of marks. You give some average, it solves. There will not be any problem. You see, you are not objective, you are not fair. So, this is also there, and bosses also sometimes do it. Why break your head? You give some average 55% or 60% something. This is an error, and there is one more error known as first impression bias. Now, some of us see when we meet people for the first time, you form an opinion. Oh, he is a nice guy, he is a bad guy. I think that lingers. The fellow may be different later, but that will continue. Such problems are there. There are also legal issues in performance appraisal. If appraisal is unfair, oftentimes what is needed is if an unfair comment is there, negative comment is there, employee has the right to get that feedback. If that is not done, if signature is not taken, if you give some punishment, your cutting his increment or demoting or not giving promotion, stopping it, any such thing you can't prove it. So, people can go to courts of law. These problems are also there. Now, we come to the next part of the lecture, namely competency mapping. Now, the competency mapping is about, we have seen job analysis, job design. There again there was some discussion about what are the qualities needed for good performance of an individual, but here competency mapping is based on what exactly are the skills, behaviors, abilities, knowledge required for good performance of the job. So, underline the word exactly. So, we sometimes make assessment, you see, to be a good teacher he should be regular, to be a good teacher his vocal cord should be good, to be a good teacher his English should be good. So, these are all assumptions, but what exactly differentiates a good teacher from a bad teacher? You take some really effective teachers who are liked by students, who are adored by students, and then see those who are, maybe you come across some qualities which you do not assume to be important. Maybe sometimes good teachers are those who are close to the heart of the students. You see, they are like them. You know, you are speaking hi-fi English and your personality is such that people are at arm's length, they do not come close to you, but they go to close to somebody who is liked more than somebody who generally we assume to be more efficient and all that. So, this is the concept, and this thing has come from a lot of research that has gone into industry, where David Coleman and Thorndike, these people have done some researches. Their researches prove that an individual's efficiency, effectiveness in organizations is not guaranteed by intelligence alone. They are more intelligent does not mean they will be more efficient. Efficiency requires two other qualities. One is social intelligence and emotional intelligence. Thorndike talks about social intelligence. What is social intelligence is, when you deal in society, you should be intelligent. You should understand the moods of the society, moods of the people, the taboos of people. People do not like certain ways of behavior. You should, even if you personally do not believe in that, you have to respect that. So, to be effective in a government organization, society is the judge. So, you have to play to the society. Similarly, emotional intelligence, not only your great knowledge, IQ and all that memory, but you should be emotionally, so you should have good feelings towards other people. You should understand their problems, so you should have sympathy or empathy with them. So, these are the things that have been emphasized. All in all, the important difference between competency mapping and intelligence, IQ and EQ, to be more precise, is that intelligence quotient, giving jobs or giving higher salaries, benefits on the basis of intelligence, is based on assumption. Intelligent people will be better performers, but may not be. Less intelligent people are also better performers because of their emotional depth, or maybe because of their social intelligence. So, these are also very important, that is the research finding, and based on that competency mapping is nowadays used in industry, and it is used heavily in industry for various purposes, for hiring, in some of the selections, even IAS selection, the emotional intelligence tests are being conducted. Not merely say memory and those examinations, there are also further examinations. Some psychologists might sit and do this. So, these things are being added now. Competency mapping mainly focuses on output. The old methods of selection, performance appraisal were based on what are the inputs of the employee, what hard work he is doing. He is working 20 hours a day in 24 hours. So, that is only input. But somebody is working only 5 hours, but the fellow who works 5 hours may get better results than the fellow who works 20 hours. So, therefore, the shift today, competency mapping gives importance to emotional skills, social intelligence and also results more than the what you are doing. What you are doing is less important. Okay, your doing is important, but even if you do less, there are smart guys who will do the work in 1 hour instead of a senior doing it for 10 hours. So, it depends on one's smartness. So, therefore, the shift is from what is going in to what is coming out. So, this is the basis for modern management. Now, there are some steps in competency mapping. If you ever want to do this, identify organizations goals correctly, analyze the competencies of the existing competencies are job related skills. Let me just highlight, competency does not mean all good qualities. Competency means what is exactly needed for performing a job, and we need to define competencies, define the metrics, provide additional resources and implement. In conclusion, let me mention that both performance appraisal and competency management mapping are very important HR processes, and their effective use marks the efficiency of the organization. Performance appraisal is little old fashioned now, and a superior concept has come, that is performance management. Industry is moving towards that. There is a reason for the government also to go for that. And one more thing is competency mapping, which is not so much used in government organizations. Private sector, multinational sector is using, and they are giving more importance to what is the output of the employee rather than what is the input of the employees. What is the benefit to the organization, how it is serving the goals of the organization. If it is serving the goal of the organization, even if the fellow is not coming to office, sitting, sleeping at home, doing his work, that is good. I think that's what it is happening in industry. The fellow, I think you see so many software employees, they are enjoying so much of leisure, moving almost like scot free, but they are doing their job. I think some people are, you would have heard about moonlighting. Some employees are doing two jobs also. So, 1 hour he will complete. The employer also has no complaint, his job is done. So, that is the way the industry is moving. Instead of making an employee slog 10 hours unendingly without much result. Now, this is a more sensible thing. That is what all is happening now. Of course, to do these things perfectly, I think we have to, number one, should move from performance appraisal to performance management. The government should think of shorter cycles of performance appraisal, more imaginative methods of performance appraisal, and also give quick feedback to employees, and also make sure that the gap between what is expected from employee and what is coming out from employee is bridged, closed very fast. And competency mapping requires a different climate, which is really not at the moment available in the government. I think hundreds of questions will be asked if somebody decides in a government office, no working hours, nothing, the fellow has to do this. Now, job is given to him, he has to do that. Let wherever he is, he may take care of his second business, or he may go to some other place. If you say this, I think a lot of reaction will come. People are not willing to accept, but this is how the industry is moving forward. Particularly, this is what is happening in ICT sector, information and communication technology sector, which is building, which is contributing immensely to the per capita income of our country also. So, these are sensible practices, and these practices are borrowed. Sooner the government borrows them, better it would be. So, with these concluding remarks, let me thank all of you for this watching this video presentation. Thank you.